Hello, everyone. My name is Hugo, and welcome to the Library of Games Log In Audio Out podcast. I am your host again, and I'm here with my co host, Taylor. Say hi, Taylor.
Hello.
And today we have two special guests. One of them is recurring, and obviously one is a new one. Why don't you introduce our recurring one, Isaiah?
Oh, hey, how's it going? I'm back. Yeah, I'm Isaiah. I was here once before.
Yeah, you were for our first episode. And we actually have our new guest, Marcus. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I've never been on this podcast, but I'm really happy.
Awesome. So a little tradition we like to have is, do you have anything you want to say about yourself a little bit? And what would be your favorite video game series?
Okay, so I think it's appropriate to say my age. Usually, people don't like. I'm 42 years old, and I've been gaming for a long time. I have kids that game. My favorite game series that is a tough one to play through a lot of incredible games. I'd have to say Fallout. Fallout.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. All right. So for today's topic, we're going to be focusing on the different generations of video games. Now, what that would necessarily mean is how everyone kind of has their own unique start towards becoming interested in video games. And that could be someone of my age, where I guess I would classify as like a low end millennial or like a Generation X per se, where I kind of grew up
You're
playing video games
straight
on
up
my.
millennial.
A
Yeah.
loaded millennial.
Straight up millennial.
Wow. Okay. Way to go for that one. But yeah, no, I started playing for example, I started playing video games around the late 2000s, and that would be much different compared to like someone playing video games now as some like a 10-year-old. So my question is for you, Marcus. I think you'd be a good start for this, since you did say before that you are a father. I was wondering, what's your experience with people who play video games now?
um, Kids. I mean, I'm in a special situation where I can see kind of what teenagers are playing and also what my kids are playing. Um, I mean, I don't think it differs a ton from what I play, but I do think growing up playing Nintendo and seeing kind of early video gaming has influenced me to like other things, or I guess be staunch in like what I think is lame and what I think is awesome. So yeah, I
Awesome. Okay.
I I actually think I am in a kind of similar position. Not as much that I'm a dad, but I have four siblings, all of them younger, as well as my dad having played video games as an adult, and then that kind of like leading to them being in my life as well. So I have like both ends of the experience that Marcus is talking about right now.
uh, uh,
um, and I think it's interesting growing up having someone kind of like, I don't want to say spoon feed you, but it's kind of what they're doing, spoon feed you video games. Um, because it kind of like puts you in a direction in your tastes, because whatever you're exposed to is what you're probably gonna like. I can't say that for certain, but uh, and then obviously you expand your own tastes as you grow and play games.
so
But
I gotta ask, like, so from my perspective, I went through a phase with my youngsters where I'm introducing them to the video games, and then they get good at them, and then it becomes a rivalry, and then I have to lay down the hammer of skills on my kids to show them that I am still a gamer, and just because you're getting good at whatever game, I still can game well. I'm sure you went through that with your dad,
I
with parents, no?
Yes, so I did go through that with my dad when I was younger. I haven't gone through that with my younger siblings yet, fortunately, because they're still young. They're only 8 and 6. Um, so they are only now starting to like really play games and get like, I don't want to say they're even good at them yet, to be honest. um, but they play them. They understand like, hey, this button does this, and like sometimes this combination of buttons does something else. Like they are really like figuring it out. But I did have that experience a lot more when I was younger. I think that's because my dad wasn't like he didn't play games often. He was a fan of them, but
Yeah.
he's not. I wouldn't call him a gamer. He
Can I?
doesn't play. He doesn't play games frequently. He'll play them once or twice a month.
It was
So
Halo. Halo that was the turning point between wait, these kids are good and
it was
I'm not as good. And yeah,
well. That's pretty funny. For us, it was WWE. uh, and I think that's pretty funny seeing the type of games that were popular in the different times as well, because obviously FPSs are pretty much everything nowadays.
yeah,
It's really interesting to hear you both talk about intergenerational gaming and sort of gaming within your family, because that's like a thing that just it like sort of existed for me but didn't. My parents are baby boomers, so like video games are just like not that much of a thing for their generation. They're also on like the older end of boomers.
yeah.
So like my first gaming experience was when my dad got us an Apple Mac, like way back in the 80s. And I was very little, and he got this game called Deja Vu. He was trying to figure it out and got super frustrated with it and pretty much quit because it was just like this was not for him. But
Caitlin, did it have a mouse?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Those real
Lucky.
old,
Was
like
that
super
was that
boxy ones.
was that not a requirement back then?
I mean,
Oh,
I
mice were a big thing. Like Apple revolutionized the mouse. Like it
well,
was a
I'm
big deal to have a
I'm
mouse.
old enough to have. Okay, well, I did have my dad brought home an Atari, and it was a
Oh
keyboard and a monitor. And
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then there was one where you just hooked the kind of keyboard thing up to the TV, and we thought we were like technicians.
Yeah.
Like we got this. We had to like rewire. Yeah, it
Right.
was.
There was this like amount of effort that was put into just like getting the hardware to work and then getting
Oh,
the game to run that just
oh,
made you feel like a genius if you like got something to work. I
oh.
remember spending so much of my young life like wrangling with MS DOS and just trying to like get a game to run on our stupid
Oh
computer.
man. Okay.
Whatever happened to just blowing your cartridge and hoping and praying?
Yeah.
There were these two prongs that you would screw with a screwdriver onto the back of a TV to connect like the video connection to the, oh dude, yeah. That
Yeah.
yep.
They later changed those types of cables to have they changed those to have screws attached to the actual cable so that you can I know what you're talking about.
Um, yeah. And so, like, because my dad, he didn't grow up playing video games. Video games were just like not part of his life. It was just this new thing that emerged when he was, an adult. Um, his approach to games were like, okay, I'll play with you, Taylor, as like a father-daughter bonding thing. We played the Mist games together. That was our daddy-daughter time.
Oh,
Which was very fun but very frustrating because those games are hard. And we bought all of the guides, the big book walkthrough guides, because that was the only way to know how to complete a game back
oh
then
my
before the
gosh.
internet.
I mean, there was
So,
some games had like a hotline, so
yes, and I definitely would ask my parents, be like, "Can I call the hotline?" And they'd be like, "No,
Oh,
you're not spending money on the hotline.
80
What are you
cents a
talking
minute.
about?" Yeah,
$1.50 a minute.
Yeah.
yeah.
Ironically, I think hearing everyone's perspective, I feel glad that Taylor actually brought up the idea of like not having a family with a strong like video game history per se or background, because I am the youngest of four. I had three siblings, but except I was the only one who ever kind of saw an interest in video games. Yet,
Ooh.
like my siblings were kind of they were very athletic based, so they kind of focus on like on sports and stuff like that, and usually when they kind of entails their video game background kind of tends to focus on like very generic video games, like I guess like Revolving Sports per se again. Like all they would play like every Madden game, every 2K.
Oh,
And then I obviously got my first exposure towards video games was either like getting a Game Boy Advance for the first time with like Earthworm Jim, and I'm wondering like, oh, what is this? And then I then kind of got into the original PlayStation 1 and then Xbox One. I got hand me downs. That was my exposure. I got hand me downs from my siblings.
Hugo,
Where
did
they
you ever play Tech Mobile?
No, I have not, but I know
Oh,
what that is. I,
aging
uh,
myself. Okay,
no,
Nintendo's
that,
like one of the Nintendo NES, the original, like the gray box. That one of their first football games, and it's so unrealistic. It's just so not. Oh my gosh, nothing like now. And that was the first sports game on a video game console system that I ever played. You press the one button, the ball would fly directly into the hands, and then you just try to like dodge your way back to the end zone, and that was a touchdown. Like,
Wait a
but it
second.
was
What was it called?
Tech
Tech
Mobile.
Mobile.
Look
Tech
it up.
Mobile.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
you want to know something funny? There is a mini game in Madden '07 for the PSP.
are you serious?
Tech Mobile?
It's not called that, but I guess it's inspired by Tech Mobile because that's the whole mini game. Is just you press one button, the ball flies to you, and then
Yep.
you're just the receiver and you're
Yep.
dodging people. You press left to dodge, right to dodge, up or down. That's it.
Dude,
That's the whole game.
nowadays there are mini games inside of games that I've played. I can name a few. Banjo and Kazooie, the recent one I played on Xbox, just the regular Xbox. It's like the
Is
mini
it
games
one or
are
two?
probably two. But the mini games inside the game are better than the games that I played in the like 80s. Like, yeah, they're
Yeah, there were some real real like thin premise games that did not work well. I remember, especially back I played a lot of I've been a PC gamer forever. Um and a lot of the computer games were real iffy. But
yeah.
there I remember, and this is a good game, but also like super thin premise. I loved Paperboy growing
Oh,
up.
that game is awesome.
That
Yeah,
game is great, but
yeah,
it's like genuinely just like running into stuff, like
yeah.
knocking people over and throwing papers into mailboxes.
Paper
Can I
Paper
can I get a context on here as someone of
Yes.
below the age
Yes.
of?
So Paperboy was super fun. You played as a paperboy riding your bike around the neighborhood,
Oh.
and you had to throw your papers into mailboxes, but you couldn't like stop or slow down. Like you were just always moving. So it was really easy to crash into stuff. But then there also would be like ramps and like you could like
Dogs would run out. at
yeah,
you.
dogs would try and like run out and get you, and
I think
it was super fun.
I think
Oh.
I played a Flash ripoff of that very same
Yeah.
game.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, I also that's something that you just mentioned. The way that games were made to be difficult is also changing,
Oh man.
and then also something else I think that I wanted to bring up the uh like the completion of games like as they're being developed
Mhm.
is also a big thing that's really different between now and when gaming first started.
I mean, I can also find some similarities though, and I feel like I'd love to get to that later.
Hmm.
Because ironically, it's like there's one game that I think is like right now I think I want to stay in the topic of games that kind of got us like as an origin point for us particularly. I think you can recognize with this one, Isaiah, is if you ever play like a Windows computer without any internet, your best friend would be pinball.
Why would you do that?
Pinball.
I played a lot of pinball.
So did I.
Oh, dude, I think that's like one of the worst gaming experiences. You gotta be really messed up.
No,
Like
well, no,
solitaire. It's just like who?
I want to
There-
bring
Wait.
that. I'll come back to that later.
Hold
I'm
on.
just-
Hold on. No, I want to reply to that now.
Okay.
Wait,
My grandparents did not have internet in their home until 2 years ago.
I'm, I'm sure they have fun. Yeah. So wait. I do want to get back to you saying like the what we considered difficult back in the day was different from now. So, dude, Mega Man? Are you kidding me? Like, even now, it's like I want to throw something at the screen of wherever. Mega Man is just hard.
Yeah.
There were games that I played that it's just like rage quit. I'm done. This is not made for human beings to beat. And you had like 3 lives. You codes? No. Live again? No. It's just either you did it in the 3 lives that you had. Maybe you could win an extra life if you just did it something amazing during the stage. But yeah, it's
Well,
game is
I
over.
can actually have an explanation for that a little bit
Mhm.
because I kind of looked into it. Around like or the early sense of video games obviously were arcades per se, right? And obviously back then the skill level was actually much higher for video games in general, and that's what got the appeal going. And the biggest reason for that would be obviously I said prior is arcades, where the biggest goal was to rank in as many quarters as you can for each machine, and you don't want your player to win too much. You want them to
Yeah,
have a good time, but you don't want them to win because once they start winning, they start getting bored.
that's
When they get
interesting.
bored, they stop obviously playing the game because it's a sense of challenge. And mind you, that mentality is still here today, which that and right now today that's nicknamed as like a Dark Souls game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But back then it was a lot more prevalent with a lot of the old school games, like where if you get like all 3 lives, oh, you got to start right back at the beginning. Where if like
Yeah.
say a video game now, I was like, oh, just go to your save point, you're fine, and you can start right back.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm trying to think about the first time I beat a video game. And I think my
Oh,
entire time play I don't think I ever beat anything on the Game Boy or the SNES.
oh
I think
man.
it's only when I started playing adventure games that are really designed to be completed, right? Because they're narrative games and like you want the narrative experience. I think that's the first time I actually beat something.
Truly
Taylor,
compelling.
my analogy for that is like beating a game now is feels like finishing a book. Beating a game back then felt like graduating. Like it's just
Where I felt like your reward is that you get the skill.
yeah, it's like I,
Right.
yeah.
But I guess like that was never enough for me to like put the hours into it to like really commit to like being good enough to beat the game.
Well, oddly enough, Taylor, your mindset for like benefiting from like a narrative standpoint, where those are the games we kind of completed, that was very niche around and didn't get popularized until like the late '90s per se,
Yeah,
where
I mean,
more RPGs keep happening.
yeah, and I was definitely playing more niche games. So like a lot of the adventure games that are like super classics that I love, came out in the early mid 90s and
Uh,
were definitely not the norm in video games. You know, like the LucasArts games are designed to you're supposed to finish the game. Like you
yeah.
can't die, you can't get stuck. And the idea of designing a game like that was revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
Like
I
be
I call
kind to
them
your player.
I call them God mode games. The games have plot armor built into the characters.
Yeah. And now, I mean, it's so prevalent in games. And like you were saying, Hugo, as games started to start to focus more on narrative and, you know, in order for the narrative to work, you have to actually complete the narrative,
I,
Yeah.
right?
I
Um,
heard today. I heard today somebody refer to. Oh gosh, what's the game? PS2. Nathan. Look,
Uncharted.
come on, you.
oh
Where
yeah,
he's like Indiana
Uncharted.
Jones.
Yeah,
What's the game?
Uncharted.
Uncharted. Okay, yeah. So somebody said that they put it on easy just so they could see the cutscene. So it's like watching a movie.
Well,
Like
yeah,
yeah,
a fun thing
Yeah.
that I've noticed, and obviously games are always like this, but I think with technology increasing and advancing, they become more of like a movie, an interactive movie, and that is the biggest reason. Like my fun fact, where it's like a video game movie, 9 times out of 10 will never work because the big key point to a very high end narrative video game is that you are the player, you are the main
Interaction.
character, you're the one
Yeah.
controlling what necessarily happens per se. With a movie, you don't really get that. And plus, you also with video games, there's a lot more time synced into video games. Where if like a movie, you only get at most like what I think the longest I've ever been to a movie is like 4 hours,
Mhm.
4 to 3 hours. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and
no,
I think what's super interesting, and Marcus, you were mentioning easy mode in Uncharted, is now in a lot of modern games, they don't even call it easy mode, they call it story mode.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that's
like,
weird.
it's gonna be easier because we want you to be able to experience the
I gotta
story
say,
without the hurdles,
yeah,
and which, my style of gaming, love it.
yeah, puzzles and stuff like that.
Love
Yeah,
it.
it is kind of um it's contrary to the way I grew up playing games. Like it's a game. You're supposed to be challenged and kind of yeah, you're supposed to fight your way through it and yeah, it's there's supposed to be bosses that you have to figure out the pattern to beat and yeah, what the I understand games have worked like Minecraft, love it. There is a boss, but you don't care, like um but the back of the day, it's just like a part of the the appeal and respect and reward you get from gaming is, I can beat that. Did you finish it? Nope, you
Yeah.
haven't. Well, you're not.
I
Yeah,
I think a big problem that contributed to the downfall of that mentality was just the sheer amount of games that are available now. Like
yeah,
not like it's just so hard to say like, oh, did you play this game? And unless it's a AAA title, if it is a AAA title, you have like a high chance that they're just gonna say yeah because it's a AAA title. And if it's an indie game, then it's the exact opposite. And it's just and because there's such a wide variety of indie games, it's really likely that someone might have a really developed taste, like really specific taste in one one area of the genre, or it's tough. There's so
yeah,
many games.
yeah. There are. You
uh,
can't
uh,
beat them
so
all.
so a fun thing is because the what you just said, Marcus, I like to think of it as like a very dated mindset, and only for the sake
Oh,
of video games have changed. Like they
hey,
really have.
wait a
And
second.
but I also think it impacts the amount of the player base now because one thing video games are constantly trying to do, especially with more generations coming along, is how can we attract new kids to these franchises? How can we get people to play our games? And I I can do that with a story per se. With I may not have kids,
Oh,
but my experience, I have nieces and nephews, and I have two, three nephews that have gotten to the age where it's like, oh, they got their first console and they want to start exploring into it, where they're they played a lot of multiplayer games that you obviously have played a little bit,
yeah.
and they've started experimenting with like a lot more difficult heavy video
Okay.
games, stuff that I would claim like, oh, like old school Nintendo stuff, um, anything that's like was a little less narrative, more of like actual playing to beat the boss at the end. And it
Huh.
just got to the point where I was thinking, oh, they're gonna enjoy it, they're gonna love it. They were enjoying it at first, but I think they kept getting confused because I felt like, oh, this game's too hard. I'm not really getting this. Why is this fun?
Hugo, I have to defend myself because I think that desire for to be known as like a gamer and that intense competition kind of thing you get with beating the game and being able to claim that you're what's up in the gaming world has mutated and smoked a lot of drugs and has dis- dispersed itself into player versus player gaming now.
Yep.
Mhm.
I was
Mm.
gonna, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it has. I mean, so it's kind of like I can't even get like I pick up a controller and play online with other people, and it's like I just get my face blown off,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
I
all right, well, you have won. I'm gonna sit this down and go and be an adult
Well,
there's
I mean,
somewhere.
there's so much. Oh, go ahead. You go.
well, I feel like that also goes into like a a much different topic where I feel like games have also been a lot less like there's not really an end goal anymore. Sometimes where it's like let's blame like or not I'm not blaming like say for example say Call of Duty, Fortnite,
Yeah.
a
Oh,
lot of
Yeah.
FPSs per se or a lot of like online based where
mhm.
Mhm.
the big it's just nothing but PvP,
Yeah.
which is not wrong per se, but I also know that that's also taking them as the new form of mainstream video games. Where
I
It's
wouldn't.
like sorry if
No,
I may
sorry,
be.
Jose, go ahead.
It's like the goal has changed from I want to beat the game to I want to be so good at the game that no one can beat me. Uh,
Yeah.
and now that we have games where you can like directly compare your skill with to someone else's by playing against them, as opposed to like, oh, it only took me this long to beat this really hard game. That's I think that also is part of what caused that mentality shift. Something
Hey,
that I think
I'm afraid of what
contributes
that
to it.
I'm
Go
afraid of
ahead.
what that is doing to your young brains. I'll just say
yeah,
that.
no,
Well,
I,
I
no,
think a
I
big
think
thing that
Yeah.
I think you're right on that because I have I again one of my nephews he's roughly around 13 going he's roughly around 13 or 12 years old.
Mhm, mhm.
His biggest favorite game ever was Fortnite for the longest amount of time.
Oh yeah.
And no, and I try and I understood it. I personally did not understand the field because like I'm more of a fan of narrative stuff, but
Mhm.
I dabble in some stuff because I like to be well rounded with it. And there I just kept trying to understand like, oh, he just wants to be the best, but I also understood it came from like mainstream stuff because like a lot of the media it's like, oh, play this game, you want to be the winner, you have to
Yeah.
play this game.
You want to
And then
survive.
I've been slowly kind of like trying to dig his brain like, hey, there's more to video games than just trying to shoot the opposite player. There's more of like a little
Yeah.
story. There's more to say Spider-Man if you want something more like easy centric, Minecraft, games where I feel like it's a different style.
I mean,
And
I think it's unfair. As much as I want to hate on, I don't know what's so cringy about Fortnite right now. I know, but I don't really. I mean, it's kind of unfair to pick on it,
well, no,
because
Yeah.
I don't I say it because that's like the biggest example because that was like I think one of the most recent forms of a video game booming out of
yeah.
nowhere.
I
Or
mean,
Yeah.
I would toss in Fortnite with Smash, and it's kind of it feels.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, but it does.
those are fighting words right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually think up until I actually think with the and this is going to be maybe strange coming from me, but I think with the addition of Ultimate to the game to the series and
mhm,
like the mindset that Nintendo has always had about the game,
mhm.
uh, that I would agree that Ultimate does kind of fit into that category with Fortnite now because that's what they're trying to do. It's an unfortunate truth. I think part of what like disallowed that in past times was that the game was hard to be good at. It was genuinely hard to be good at before, and
Well,
Yeah.
they are lowering the skill ceiling. The skill ceiling was already like lower than most other fighting games, or skill
Mhm.
floor rather. The skill floor, excuse me. So like what it takes for people to actually play the game was already lower than other fighting games, but now it it's different. It's hard in a different way, and it's wired in a way that I think makes sense to the newer generation.
see now,
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up because I think Smash is a very weird exception. Again, because I've looked into the history of like all the series and how the creator Masahiro Sakurai wanted to handle the game. Where initially it was created as like a fun party game, but obviously its own consumers turned it into a competitive sport, and he didn't like that. So as a result, he created his own dumbed down version of the game where it was supposed to be more beginner friendly, which it was. I think it greatly was, but it was so hated by the competitive community that they felt like, okay, I feel like I need to shift this, and then it was going in the right direction, but it wasn't enough, and that kind of led to where it is to Ultimate, where it's trying to be a balance, to where it needs to cater to both the veteran audience but at the same time also attract new players to feel like, hey, you don't have to know like a bunch of combos left and right to kind of have fun with
Man,
this game. But if you wanted to, they're there.
I don't think it can redeem itself or separate itself from its audience at this point. Like it is what it is, and the,
I don't know. I feel like it's definitely changed with the medium, especially with new characters like Minecraft Steve at the time of this recording.
yeah, but I just remember when it first came out, thinking it was completely absurd. Dude, I know you can't talk junk about this game because I will have people kicking down my door. But
Well,
but it was just like it was so absurd. Like you get to fight a hand and all the characters from Nintendo, and just like what is going on? It's
but
like
so I have to
I
ask, what about the concept. Leave all the story stuff behind it. What about the concept of Nintendo characters fighting is more absurd than random fighters that they have, the characters that they themselves have created, like in Mortal
Ooh.
Kombat.
Or
Okay.
Street Fighter.
Why does that stand out to you? And
Re-
I know we're derailing a little, but it's
Yeah,
it's my
yeah, yeah.
favorite game, so I'm defending it here.
But I think it, and I'll admit, it comes from the form that I grew up in. If you have a shooter, it's a shooter. You know what I mean? Like, you don't put absurd stuff in it because you don't want to take away from the experience of you wanting to be an assassin. Or if you're a ninja, you're a ninja. And you don't put clowns in it, or you don't put, like happy plants, or you're a ninja. You have a sword, you fight demons, you call it a day, and you win. I mean, so just the crossing of the genre you know, of characters was really creepy to me. And like, wow, man, this is the future. Okay, so anybody can fight anybody. So you have like the Nintendo workout lady fighting Zelda.
Wii Fit
Just
Trainer.
can't
See,
can't
but
get with it.
I think what doesn't do it for you, that I think what you're bringing up kind of gets a pass, like, from the players, is the fact that they stay so loyal to the character's original games.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that, again, as a concept, I think the game is extremely interesting and cool, and I think that it's as evidenced by something like PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, that it's not an easy concept to pull off.
And just for context for anyone listening, PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale is Sony's attempt at creating their own version of Super Smash Brothers with their own respective IPs, and it didn't go as well.
It was really clunky.
As someone who played it day one, was really excited for it, it did not bring the same charm.
So wait, Hugo, you don't feel the need to explain what Smash is to everyone?
No. This is the thing, though. I think Super Smash Brothers is one of the most iconic series in existence. It's gotten to that point, and and it only has gotten to that point because of how many singular franchises are crammed into it, and especially for Ultimate, where it's seen as like one of the biggest crossovers in video game history. And
man.
and
Yeah.
my reply to what you were saying on how you don't really get it per se, and in the combination for what Isaiah was trying to explain, I like to think Super Smash Brothers, especially specifically Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, is like a Swiss Army knife of video games, where I feel like it can cater to multiple different audiences, both casual and hardcore.
Okay.
So,
Here's another kind of critique of this game that goes in maybe into a tangent. I don't know. So you got, in the future, you can be any character, kind of mod your character nowadays. When I play a game, you start off with the thing where you get to create your face, create your character, your gender, whatever. And so back in the day, you just couldn't do that. You were Ken, and Ken fought, and that's who you were. Or you were like, Laura, and Laura explored, or whatever. Nowadays, I I can't. I mean, I understand that variety and choice is a part of it's a part of gaming. It's never going away, and I think it's good. But then there's the controversy of, okay, so you take Mass Effect, and the game that works with a certain character, the narrative works better, or it's written for this character, and it. You know what I mean? Look, it's written for the guy, and it's written so you can play the story. But then if choose a different gender, choose a different alien style, it's sloppy, And so I don't know. Like, I'm just tossing it out there. Like, it's something that I think the gaming world is dealing with right now, and the internet is both changing what the gaming world is, because they're both colliding in one of the same, and that's a huge topic. That's a
Yeah,
a huge.
I think wow, I think the biggest reason we're disagreeing here, or like coming at it from such different perspectives, is really just the games we played when we first started playing
Yeah.
them.
Yep. That's it.
And I think when I first, like, really started playing games frequently, they had already started to introduce that very concept of like, yeah, make your character look however you want him to look, because it's not going to make an impact on the game. We're still going to tell you the story. Now, I think there are still games that do what you do. I think they still developed into, I mean, like something like The Last of Us,
Yeah.
where you are that character. That character has a personality. You have the opportunity to show more of that personality as long as you're paying attention while playing the game. But like, it really is, you are playing as those characters.
And it works. I mean, but I mean, I think it's problematic when you're trying to be everything to everyone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's where my criticism of like a game, like, let's just toss all of them into the game and make them fight because we know you like all of them. So it's like,
well, to be
let's
fair,
have a Pepsi Coke so you can drink it and love both at the same time.
Okay, don't get ideas. That's actually a thing.
so you don't
trying to make that a thing.
So you don't like Injustice either, then?
Oh, dude, Injustice sucks. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, cool. As long as you're consistent.
All right. Yeah, no. You mentioned that a lot, where it's like, oh, it just doesn't work if like, oh, just throw a bunch of people and just make them fight. Yeah, no. I think I kind of agree with you. It shouldn't work, and I think Smash is like the only exception where it's worked, because like what me and Isaiah were talking about, it's been this method has been replicated before. It's not. Yeah. People have tried copying it, and it just never sticks.
Okay.
And they've gotten like little cameos like from other games per se, but it's never to the same caliber or degree as Smash. And I don't know. I just think it's just a different time, and I think Smash is just one of those unique games where I think it's going to be. It was timeless when it started, and I think it's going to be timeless now.
Hey, can I ask your generation? Why aren't you guys pushing for local multiplayer games?
Like, thank you, so bad about it. I'm
so bad. I have 4 younger siblings.
Everybody needs to just jump on whatever social media platform and just refuse to play games for a week until until game developers decide to make.
No. So I have a story for this. Mm-hmm. So, like I mentioned before, with my nephew, 12-year-old, this is where he's the closest like sibling, relative I have that can get to playing video games. Mm-hmm. Obviously, his first instinct is obviously like Fortnite and all this PvP stuff. I said, hey, let's play some video games together. He just got like a Nintendo Switch. It'd be fun. He can play with like his younger siblings. So his idea was like, he's just gonna play Fortnite, and we all just take turns. Like, if he dies, we swap the controller. I'm like, no. Here, let me just take control of this. I start whipping out like a bunch of my collection where it's like, okay, let's play Mario Kart. Let's play Mario Party. Yeah. A bunch of simple indie games, even like a 4-player Tetris game for all I have, or Kirby Star Allies. Point is, I felt like I think the newer generation is very skewed on how they're kind of seeing video games. Where I feel like, while I think connection has been better since no one has to really be near a couch per se to play together, but I also think it hurts it because I feel like, say they are together, what do you do? And I've just never felt like that's always been my go-to, because I love the encouragement of using video games as an excuse for like social gatherings.
Yeah.
And hence why like we have board games. Hence why we have a lot. Nintendo tends to really focus on that a lot, on why their games don't really do a lot of online stuff, even though they've been requested.
Well, they pretended that when you get the Switch, you're going to be in circles with your friends, and I guess that happens. But
you know what game my friends use, and my family actually use the Switch most commonly for group gatherings? Jackbox. It's not even like you could do that on a computer. You don't need like it's not happening. What else can you play? It's just Smash. And I'll be honest with you, none of my family wants to play that with me.
I kind of, and this is on a personal level I think reflective of like the way I play games and like what I played growing up. I really like the kind of cooperative local multiplayer games, like things like Overcooked.
Oh
or
my god.
like
I love that game.
Yes.
Little Big Planet, where like
Oh yeah.
yes, you could be a jerk and someone wins, but ultimately you do have to work with each other.
Yes.
Um, and I think there are some interesting games being made in this vein, but not as many as I'd like to see. That are more like, let's play together, but let's not play against each other. Let's play with each other.
And that's been shifted as like a mindset of what was mainstream at the time, because at some point I think look, couch co-op was the
Mhm.
biggest norm. Like my biggest like I think my biggest analogy I'll say with Nintendo is when the N64 and the GameCube were a thing, where
Mm.
the biggest funnest thing was like GoldenEye 007,
Yeah.
uh,
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
Mario Party, just stuff like that. Any like group racing games, stuff that that benefited from the couch co-op. And I think that's the only
I
reason why the Nintendo 64 actually worked as well, because
Dude,
it relied on it.
you needed
I
to be
actually
around when Xbox first allowed you to. I mean, I know there were like LAN parties. I never went to those. I wasn't technically savvy enough to sort of connect with those people. But when you could bring your Xbox to somebody's house and you had enough TV screens and enough controllers and play like 8-person Halo, it was the best of times. Just it's where is that? Where is that? And I'm not talking about like I'm going to connect with all my friends in their COVID, protective bubbles. Which, I'm sorry, that's where we are now. I'm talking about like on my couch, everybody. I'm going to win, but you can come over and watch me
their Kofefe protective bubbles.
win.
Yeah. Isaiah,
Wait,
did you have something? Sorry.
yeah, no, I lost.
All right. If that's the case, I have a new topic I kind of want to bring up. Is so one of the key things I kind of saw kind of booming with the newer generation, and I think like 8 to 12-year-olds right now. I'll say since that's what I'm just been observing is a lot of games that are focused on mobile have just been exploding for them as a beginner type of
Ooh,
game.
because they're so good. Because they're so good. Like once again, I'm the old guy who can say like the games inside of games that I play now are better than the games that I played when I was playing. So like I see my sons playing like CoOp Mobile, and it's like that can work on a phone. Like, that's better.
No,
Yeah. So
I also think that's also why Fortnite kind of went as successful as it did, because there was a point where it was just a PC only game or PlayStation, and then it swapped over to handheld or like handheld or phone, and I think that blew up. And then I'm
yeah.
seeing even stuff like even before Fortnite, when Minecraft was only on mobile for at one point outside of like consoles or PCs, that was a hip thing people wanted to play. And then even
Yeah.
now, I think the current one that I keep seeing,
Among Us.
yeah, Among Us
Yeah.
has been the
Mhm.
current game for all ages. Where I'm thinking, oh, this is a fun game. I'm playing on my computer. I see like I see my 8-year-old niece. She's playing out with her friend from like a bunch of different houses on her phone. I'm like, what? What is this?
Yeah. I think the thing that I would see tweens playing the most in the library was Roblox
Oh.
and jumping between like the PC and phone versions of Roblox and
It's
just like
Minecraft with a gun.
Roblox all day, every day.
Yeah, no, my yeah, no. That's my nieces and nephews, like their main form of communication to play together is that they even found their own way of like voice chat before like Discord or Skype was a thing. They had like Google Hangouts where they use like a
Oh.
separate piece of technology and then they use on their phones or tablets to play Roblox together.
Mhm.
And that's their form of communication. I've never felt so heartwarmed just to see bonding over that. But
I mean,
Marcus, this is actually a question for you then.
yeah. Okay.
What is like your kid's main way to play video games now?
Cell phones. It's cell phones.
Really? So it's still
Because
mobile.
wait, we share. I mean, we share our Xbox One. We haven't got. I told him like we're gonna build a PC. We're gonna PC game. I mean, they play on laptops, but cell phone. So it's cell phone and Xbox One, but cell phones mostly. Because as a parent, I'm like, okay, you only have so much time to game, but they can squeeze in more gaming if they have their cell phones in places in the car and the places that we go. So I say cell phone. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a convenience sake. But have you tried deviating them to try to go for like a console based, or are they
Well,
just like, eh?
I mean, we play, like, I see them, they play, my 13-year-old plays Rainbow, Jude plays a bunch of other stuff. What's the last thing? I saw him playing Warframe. Um,
Wow, you
yeah,
you are just you need to encourage some attention span
diversify.
there, pal.
Well, Phoenix plays Among Us.
I think
Um,
that's a big problem with mobile games. And I wanted to bring this up earlier about just like the explosion of popularity in video games,
Mhm.
because I think mobile games had a very big part in that. Like a huge part in that. If they aren't like the main reason that gaming is mainstream. Um, but it's really interesting to see how most mobile games are designed, because they're not meant to be completed. They're meant to be played,
yeah,
and
Mhm.
and a lot of them are also meant to be played passively, because, like you said, they just want you to squeeze in a little bit of time to play your game, watch that ad real quick,
yeah.
and make a little bit of money off of you while you have your fun.
I
So
think I mis
it's
I think I
but
misrepresented my family in saying that we only play things with guns. That's not
To
that's
be
not
fair,
true.
I've given you chances to change that, but clearly, okay, FPSs are your go-to.
That's not true. I'll have to come up with some more games, but it's just not.
well, I mean, even if you look at mobile, they're like there's such a that's another thing. Mobile games have an extreme variety,
Hmm.
but at the same time they're so limited in those varieties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And it's really interesting, right? I live in the in indie game world. How many indie games are, getting ported to mobile, but because they cost like $2.99, $3.99, they don't catch on in mobile,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like the free to play is the way it goes on mobile.
Especially through
Like,
microtransactions. Oh my god.
right.
Yeah.
It's like if I can get a game for free on mobile, why am I going to pay for a game on mobile?
So
Um so like lots of really cool games kind of, you know, sort of fly under the radar. I mean, in a previous episode of this I talked about What the Golf, which is now on Steam, which is just like the best mobile experience like you will
oh my
have.
goodness.
Wait, what
I
is it?
I
Oh yeah, well, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
hold
I
on.
say,
Before
oh,
I have something to tell you, Taylor, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy you brought this up. When you mentioned it, and that was the first episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which you were a
When you
part of. I
mentioned it,
forgot.
yes, I was. When you mentioned it, I decided to speed run and slash 100% what the goal. And I beat it. I beat it in
You
4 days.
actually played it. You
Whoa.
actually played it.
Please
I
tell
beat
me
it in
what the
4 days.
Fantastic.
game is.
It is fantastic.
It is
Pretty good.
wonderful, but
Because
it's
Yeah.
a
that's all I
joke.
get.
It
It's a
is
joke.
it is it's golf. You're just completing golf holes. They're just
Okay.
not what you expect.
Okay.
And I recommend going into it not knowing too much about it because
Okay.
it's just a delightful experience.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can give it that.
Wholeheartedly agree with that review.
Yeah.
So, all right, I have a let's. I think this should be like a little good final remark since I think we're running close to time. Um, h- in terms of generations, we've obviously been talking about our own experiences, how our opinions on the new generations of video games and people who play video games. This is more like a word of advice question. What would be the best gateway for someone who's very young, let's specifically say minimum like tweens, to get into video games that your definition of video games? Like, what would
Oh,
be the best introduction for it?
that's a
Because I can give my example. For me, I like to play it safe with Nintendo. I like to always encourage before we go to like online based games, know the fun of the basics of couch multiplayer. Have fun with like Mario Kart, Mario Party, stuff that doesn't. I like to play a lot of gateway video games where I want to just go into a room. Hey, do you want to play something? And it's equivalent to like a board game where it attracts people and it's just overall trying to have a good time. And if I'm just with only one person and they want to say, hey, I want to play a video game, I would love to introduce them to like a Mario game, a Zelda game if they want something more like narrative heavy. Something with a little more substance that you kind of have to dig in on your own without like something telling you to.
Hugo, this is an easier question than you think. I just Minecraft, right? Like
All right,
that's just. I mean, I
then why Minecraft then?
okay because I think it includes elements of many genres in there. So you have like kind of the building whole world sandbox thing. You also could go after um, the completion of the game. It does have a boss, even though I've really never seen anybody who cares about it, except for like
Uh,
YouTube. But
the
that
ach-
I
the
know
achieve
people
the
care about.
no, the achievement tree is where it's at for
Okay,
Minecraft.
I mean, but it has the kind of first persony kind of experience too. It has the kind of multi world experience. Yeah, I think it has a bunch of that stuff. And so it when I first played it, I mean, of course it has its own amazing history and stuff like that, but it was one of the times that I was actually scared in a video game. And that's saying something. I played many video
You're
games
afraid
and
you're afraid of blocks?
no. Okay, here's the experience. I was like, okay, I'm playing it. Oh yeah, this is nice. I'm mining and stuff like that, and then it's getting dark, and I'm like, oh okay, it's dark around here. And then you see things like walking with spiders and stuff. I'm like, hit it, and then I'm like, wait, I'm dying. Then I dig myself in a hole and cover it up and wait till morning. And I was
If that isn't one of the most relatable, casual / beginner experiences in
yes,
Minecraft ever, that I don't know what is.
I waited the whole like 15 minutes in a hole and blind, complete screen darkness to get back up. Embarrassing, yeah.
I'm at
But
a loss for words here. All right, Isaiah, your turn. What do you got?
um, wow, this question is kind of hard for me, mostly because I tend to play a lot of really difficult games.
hmm,
Uh,
Mhm.
I think huh.
Would
I
you want
really
to?
don't. I really don't know. I play a lot of platformers mostly. I don't think the genre is particularly accessible when you first start playing video games. They can be rather punishing, and most of them, when you do make a mistake, like they make you do a lot of work because the game's designed for you to learn and to be good at the game to beat it.
All right,
Um,
if you could name one that you'd want someone to be their first like actual like challenging game, what would it be then?
Celeste is a good one.
huh.
Ah, there
I
you
don't know
go.
what that is, but okay.
So let me just a TLDR. It's just a story of a girl trying to like climb a Mount
Yeah.
Celeste. It's like that's an actual mountain,
Okay.
but it's like their version of like Mount Everest per se. And throughout it, it's a bit mystical, where she gains the ability to like fly through the air temporarily
So
through like a dash, and it just tackles a lot of like insecure like story wise. It's great where it tackles a lot of like self journey of going through insecurities, going through your past, and overcoming it as a person.
you
It,
know,
it
And
this
it
sounds
discusses it discusses anxiety and depression. It's really pretty, beautifully designed. The game,
it won an award for for a lot of good soundtrack and gameplay.
it sounds therapeutic. I want to
It,
yeah,
know.
yes, but at the
but
same time, it is
it's
incredibly
hard.
difficult.
Really?
It's so hard.
Well, I want to know the games. I mean, maybe later on you guys can explain what video games would just destroy a new gamer's soul and make them never want to pick up a controller.
The
All
end
right,
is nigh.
we can go into that another day, but I would like to keep
Yeah.
talking a little more on Celeste because what Celeste tries to do, metaphorically speaking, is that you're climbing a giant mountain. It's not going to be easy, and also conquering your own insecurity, depression, and anxiety, that is also not easy. And what like a little nickname that the game has is that it is going to be the hardest game you will ever complete because it teaches you without telling you the mechanics of the game and how to that you're unconsciously getting better at the game and you don't
It,
even know it.
it does teach you a couple of key mechanics, but for the most part, it's really based in you exploring your abilities and how you can interact with the world around you and like the limitations that Madeline, the main character, has. I
And
think I think I think. Oh, go ahead.
I just think it just teaches you a lot of ways to how their own platforming works, and it teaches people who play video games, like what we talked about, how like video games are so hard and they used to be really hard. Yeah, this is a game that's supposed to remind you, hey, it's really hard, but also don't get too frustrated with it, because that's the biggest
So
problem with people
What
getting into video
platform
games.
is it on?
something I want to mention though about Celeste, and I could even after this is over, I could share this with you. There's like a dump of information about this, but Celeste is actually designed to be a beginner friendly platformer. So like they literally into the game, it's coded. So if you are a couple of pixels off from hitting a ledge with a dash, it will actually clip you upward and you will land on the ledge
Nope,
so
we'll
that you
never
don't have
play
to
it.
be
Sorry.
so that you don't have to be pixel perfect. It's the kind of thing that like makes Mario difficult, because Mario for the most part is rather easy, but where the difficulty lies is that there's no frame buffering, there's no move buffering, and it's pixel precise. So there are ways to make Mario hard because of how limited you are in movement, and Celeste kind of puts buffers on those limitations, making it, generally speaking, an easier platformer while still being challenging by forcing you to get good at the mechanics of the game.
I wonder if it'll stop being therapeutic if they gave you hints like, you died, right? But we got you. Like,
No, you say that. There's actually a thing though, where you can even it encourages you sometimes to take a break if it's too much for you. The
oh,
game knows it keeps track of how much you die in a level, and if you die like so much in a quick succession, it tells you, hey, kind of stop, take a breather, or it even tells you right at the bat where if you're more of a fan of like more story, if you want to focus on the narrative, you can tone down the challenge a lot, and just if it's just for the main story, go kind of breeze through it if you're not that into like the platforming and such, which I
You
think
can
is
turn
great.
on assist mode.
I, I,
And
I don't lament that we've gotten here with games. I think it's great. I just want to note that, man, that's a huge difference from back in the day.
well, the thing is though, Celeste is giving you an option,
hmm
where I think most games, whether it's too easy or too hard, they just don't give you the option.
Mhm.
And I think that's where it gets creative. And also, to answer your question previously, this is available on Nintendo Switch, Steam, and PlayStation 4. If I'm That's the only platform that, if I'm correct, there on.
So,
I
yeah.
think that's right.
But yeah, no, I think that was a great example, Isaiah. I think that Celeste is a really perfect game for anyone who wants to get into more challenging aspects of video games.
Kids need to toughen up.
If you want a really hard platformer that's recent, play The End Is Nigh.
Oh my gosh. All right, Taylor, what about you?
Yeah, so I think sort of my perspective in video games, right? I'm all about like the indie narrative games. I don't love combat. I That's who I am as a gamer. So I think I'm kind of approaching it from that perspective. Like, how do you introduce someone to that world of video games? Um, and when I started thinking about it, I realized, like, especially for a younger audience, a lot of the games I would point to as the great entry games are like really dark and have really like mature content, which is also like, why aren't there more like games sort of this kind of ilk for a younger audience? And it got me thinking about my friend who does not play video games at all. And during the lockdown, she like just needed a thing to do. And she asked me for a list of games to play. And she played Oxenfree.
What is
This
Yes,
fabulous like narrative game that goes in directions you just do not expect, has some of the best writing, like the best dialogue I have ever experienced in a game. It's not super long, um, and is like surprisingly deep. Like there's you can replay it. Like a lot of adventure games, like you play it once and you're done. Like Oxenfree has replayability. I
just
feel
just to further reiterate, it's not that you can replay it twice or like or replay it multiple times. To get the full end, it has multiple endings, and to get the real ending, you
Yeah,
have to
you
play
have
it
to
at
keep
least
playing
twice.
it. Yeah.
You know what? To be fair, I play all of these games because all the games that Taylor suggested to me, I love. Yeah,
Um,
And
but
just for
she
oh,
she lost her mind. I mean,
mhm.
like she was texting me constantly about like, "Oh my god, this happened. This is so good. This is so good. This is so good." And she just lost her mind and loved it. So I think yeah, that's a really great entry. But was really interesting, the next game I recommended to her was What Remains of Edith Finch, which is also this really beautiful narrative game, like really complex story. But it's first person, and shifting from like a third person kind of point and click interface to first person was really tough for her to like get used to first person, right? Because if you don't grow up playing first person, it's like it's very weird, like, and it's hard to get used to, so she just quit playing that. So I would say I would recommend something like Oxenfree to just kind of experience what like the complexities of narrative games, and just to experience some like amazing video game writing. But then in kind of the first person realm, I'd recommend Portal.
Rainbow
Like
Six
Portal is Portal 2 is near perfect
Nice.
and takes, the first person shooter mechanic interface and like flips
It
it
makes you think
on its head.
outside the box.
Yeah.
Makes you think outside the
So
box.
for me, I think those are two games that really kind of expand your, idea of what games can be. Now, unfortunately, there are a lot of like Portal clones, kind of puzzler first person things that aren't as good. So maybe to a player, Portal isn't as exciting as it once was, but I still think it's amazing.
No,
I
and
like it. I
I'm
like it.
sorry.
I'm sorry. I,
I think it's a good idea that she brought up a lot of like narrative heavy games, because I think what Marcus was talking about, like how back then completing a game was like graduating, but playing a game, defeating a game in the modern age, especially with narrative focus, is like actually completing a book. And to that, I think it's very powerful, because I think books still have a very prominent impact on our lives and how we think and how we feel. And I think using games is just another source of a medium. It's just a good access I think everyone should experience, especially people who are both associated with video games and not associated with video
yeah, like that
Yeah.
analogy.
games. All right. If I think this is a good time to kind of end it then. This has been a great session, you guys. Thank you so much for coming here to be a guest.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Isaiah, for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All
Man,
right.
this was a lot of fun. I have games to play now. Oxenfree and Celeste. I've never played them, but now I get to play them.
Oh, definitely. All right. Uh,
I really think you'll like Celeste.
all right. Is there any last
So,
words, Marcus, you'd like to give to like our audience? Anything like that?
man, this is a dope show. I mean, play video games.
All right. What about you, Isaiah? Anything?
I'm gonna just add on to what Marcus said and say, play the games you like to play. Don't care about what anyone else is playing. Don't worry about that. If you think you will enjoy it, try it. Support the developers that aren't mainstream because they need the help. And if you think that they're gonna make good products, help them do so.
All right. All right. This has been the Library of Games Log In Audio Podcast, and goodbye.
Hi.
Bye.
Bye.